Good day, dear biology teachers. The model lesson covers 10th class 6.1.1. What happens in reflex actions topic from control and coordination chapter. We follow the common steps prescribed in the lesson plans provided in our handbooks. These lesson plans are designed to assist the teacher by providing strategies of teaching practices and for the achievement of the competency-based learning outcomes aligned in this curriculum. Before entering to the classroom, the teacher should make sure the following things are done. Let us see what are they. First of all, learning outcomes. The learning outcomes to be achieved by the completion of this topic are students analyzes the actions in the situation when a person touches a hot object. Explains the process of reflex arc. Draws a labeled diagram of reflex arc. And applies the learning of the reflex arc in a hypothetical situation. One should know the learning outcomes to be achieved for each topic. These learning outcomes will helpful for designing the teaching learning activities to us. And the next one is TLM. The teacher should collect the required TLM during the pre-teaching period. So the TLM required for this topic are images, Diksha content, charts and models explaining the reflex arc. And coming to the Diksha content, now the Diksha content provides us 5 types of contents. We can easily access them by scanning the QR code that is provided at the title of each chapter. Now coming to mind mapping or conceptual mapping. The teachers should prepare themselves the conceptual maps for the whole chapter. This map can give us a thorough idea of the contents present in this chapter, the serial order to be followed for the completion of the chapter. The concept map even can be used for recapitulation purpose from the second period till the end of the chapter. And also this conceptual map can provide us the information of prior knowledge and skills the student possesses relating to the present topic. Then prior concept or skills. The teacher should keep in mind these things in order to direct the children from known to unknown. Prior concept or skills possessed by the student by the starting of this topic are location of brain and spinal cord, nerve cell structure, synapse, and nerves. All these things they learned in the previous classes. And now let us start the class with greeting, motivating children to know something new and announce the present topic. We can go like this. Welcome to the classroom. Did you ever wonder how you escape narrowly from falling dust particles by suddenly closing your eyes? How fast do you respond when situations need fast responses to escape from these situations? Let us know the fastest responses we show during dangerous or critical conditions called reflex responses. Now coming to the hook activity. Hook activity can engage the children in learning new things by connecting their day-to-day knowledge to the new knowledge. I used this video clip. The teacher also can perform this activity with the help of a student in the classroom. The teacher at first holds the ruler at high and she falls down. The student immediately catches the ruler that is falling down. Then after the completion of this classroom activity, the teacher can pose these questions. How much time does it take for the boy to catch the falling ruler? What is the distance between my holding point and the boy's holding point? The students may answer that very less time or no much time the boy takes to catch the falling ruler. And the distance between your and his holding points is very less. That means the student within a less time, within a fraction of seconds, he holds the ruler that is falling down. Then the teacher can provide 3 or 4 examples for the reflexes. Like, I jumped out of the bus reflexively. I pulled my hand back reflexively. I was hungry. My mouth started watering reflexively. I jumped out of the sharp object reflexively. And then we can explain that in all these examples, we are responding very quickly. Just like the boy is holding the falling ruler. And giving more examples like touching a hot thing, we can pose some more questions. What will be your response if you accidentally touch a hot plate? How much time does it take to remove your hand from the thing? Is there any time lapse to respond? Is there any time available for thinking? So, in all these conditions, the students, they will say there is no much time to respond. They would respond very quickly to escape from these situations. Now, giving another example like this in the form of a picture. We can ask a different question, that is thought-provoking question like this. Imagine that if someone is going to hit on your knee, what will happen if you first think of the pain you are going to feel after hitting your knee and then you move your leg backwards? Then they can say that we may get severe pain if we spending time to think of the pain that is going to we get as the thing touches me very hard within this time. In some dangerous conditions, we need to respond very fast without thinking. That's the conclusion we should give at the ending of this discussion. And we can also give some more information like cognitive activities like thinking process. That is the responsibility of the frontal lobe in the brain. Its location is too far from the sense organs to they should send nerve signals to the frontal lobe. Processing of that signals should take place in the frontal lobe and commands should be provided. These commands should be sent back to the leg. For all these activities, there will take so much of time for the responding, for showing response. So that we can say that thinking should be excluded when we should respond very quickly during the dangerous or critical conditions. And now coming to exploration. Now, after providing the 3 or 4 or more examples for this concept, discussing on those examples, the teacher can elicit the following points from the students. They can say that now reflexes are quick. They take no time to show responses. Reflexes occur when we are in critical conditions and there is not much time available to escape from that condition. And also they can say that reflex responses should occur without any thinking process. Now, in this exploration phase of the classroom transaction, the teacher can encourage the students to explore the textbook content. This passage is taken from the page number 50 of our textbook. This passage explains the reflex arc and reflex responses. Now, the teacher can read aloud the passage and encourage the students to read again the passage and find out the keywords which are not known to them, which are new to them. And the students may find out these keywords from that passage. Reflex arc, input nerve, output nerve, spinal cord. Now, the explanation phase. The teacher has to explain all these keywords. These keywords are necessary to know for the introduction of the topic. Explanation of keywords. Spinal cord. This is the cylindrical bundle of nerve fibers that is enclosed in the spine and connects nearly all parts of the body to the brain, forming response pathways. We can also provide some images showing the location and the structure of the spinal cord and its activity and its function. Input nerve. It is also known as the sensory nerve. It carries the impulses or electric signals from the receptors to the spinal cord or to the brain. Output nerve. It is also called as the motor nerve. It carries the impulses or electric signals from the spinal cord or brain to the effector organ. Reflex arc. This is the shortest pathway, starts from detecting a stimulus to show a response through the spinal cord. So, responses are shown according to the stimulus. When sensing the stimulus, the response pathway is started and this pathway is continued up to the brain, and analysis of the brain should occur and brain should produce the commands, and these commands should come to the spinal cord and spinal cord to the effector through the motor neuron in voluntary responses. In the case of voluntary responses, but in the case of reflex responses, the path is shortened. It is bypassed by the spinal cord, excluding the passage of the nerve impulses to the brain and from the brain to spinal cord. Reflex responses. Involuntary and spontaneous responses shown under the control of the spinal cord. Here, no function of brain is needed. We can also add some more keywords which we feel that these are necessary for the explanation of the topic. I added receptors and effectors. Receptors are the special cells in sense organs detecting stimulus. Effectors, generally these are the muscles that receive impulses from the spinal cord or brain to show the responses. After introducing the keywords of the passage, the teacher now can use a video clip or an image for explaining reflex reactions, reflex arc and its components, How does the reflex response occur in us? I am using my own video clip for this purpose. Reflex arc, what happens in reflex reactions? By the end of this video clip, students will be able to define the reflexes and reflex arc, differentiate voluntary and involuntary reactions, and explain the components of reflex arc. Observe the movement of a freely hanging leg when it is hit by a rubber hammer gently on the knee. How quickly the leg moves backwards. Imagine that you are about to be stepped on a sharp object. On sensing the sharp object, you draw out your foot immediately. Do you think anything before removing foot from the object? No. Thinking actually involves the brain. Thinking is a complex process, takes a little bit of time to respond. Hence, the responses occur during the dangerous situations involve no brain. They occur under the control of the spinal cord. Reflex is an involuntary and sudden response to a stimulus in order to adapt to adverse conditions. Reflexes occur under the control of spinal cord. In voluntary responses conducted in our consciousness, the receptor in the sensory organ receives a stimulus, produces signals, sends them through the sensory nerve. Sensory nerve carries the signals to the spinal cord. Spinal cord then relays the signals to the brain. Brain takes the signals, analyzes and produces commands and sends them again to the spinal cord. Spinal cord relays the commands through the motor nerve to the effector. Effectors are the muscles. They respond what the command says. The process occurs during voluntary responses like raising your hand to answer a question or crossing a road on foot. But reflex responses do not involve the processing of signals by the brain. The spinal cord bypasses the path of reflex reactions. In the reflex response of drawing out the leg from a sharp object, the receptor cells in the skin receive the stimulus, send the impulses or signals through the sensory nerve. The sensory nerve carries the signals to the spinal cord. Spinal cord intermediate cells relay the signals directly through the motor nerve. Motor nerve carries the signals to the effectors, the muscles in your leg. The leg muscles will draw out your foot from the sharp object. Hence, we can define the reflex arc as the shortest path of involuntary responses controlled by the spinal cord. Reflex responses occur without our consciousness and thinking. The components of the reflex arc are receptors, specialized cells in the sensory organs, those receive stimulus. Sensory nerve that carries the signals from the receptors to the spinal cord. Spinal cord relay the signals to the motor nerve. Motor nerve that controls the effector by bringing signals to the effectors. Effectors finally are the muscles that show the appropriate response. Can you explain the reflex arc in this situation, touching the hot object? Now you can define the reflexes and reflex arc. Differentiate voluntary and involuntary responses and explain the components of the reflex arc. Thank you. Now the teacher can discuss the reflex arc by presenting the picture showing this situation of touching hot plate. This is the one provided in the textbook. We can also give opportunity to few students to come forward voluntarily and to use their knowledge of reflex responses in this new situation. Now, the teacher can divide the students into groups, provide them each example mentioned earlier in the classroom discussion, and allow the students to hypothesize the path of reflex arc. This is the elaboration phase of the lesson. Then coming to the evaluation phase, as it provides feedback of students' learning. For making it effective, we should provide check for understanding facts, critical thinking, and open-ended questions, and finally the assessment for homework purpose. I would like to see a few factual questions like what is the reflex arc, what is the pathway of the reflex arc, and open-ended questions like why do you think reflex reactions are important for our survival? What will happen if the brain is involved in the reflex arc? And coming to the assignment, I can draw the diagram showing the reflex arc and its components by taking an example of a reflex reaction. Differentiate between voluntary responses and involuntary responses. We can also use the worksheet provided in our handbook period plan. That is also helpful very much for their to get the feedback of the students' learning. Then summarize the topic like reflexes are the involuntary and spontaneous responses that occur in critical or dangerous conditions. These occur under the control of the spinal cord. The reflex arc is the shortest pathway from detecting a stimulus to elicit a response through the spinal cord. Reflex arc contains receptor, sensory nerve, spinal cord, motor nerve, and effector. So, hope the model lesson demonstration helpful for visualizing the classroom transaction and to make students engage in active learning. Thank you.